Okay, I think the recording has started. So right in Canva here, how I have created a design. I clicked on create a design. This is it here. Then from creating a design, I'll just create any kind of social media design. Just let's say an Instagram, a Facebook post, or anyone. So let me just use a Facebook post. You can use anyone, or let's say an Instagram post, something that is square, 1080 pixel by 1080 pixel. So I'll use this to explain the difference between shapes and frames. Though I've once explained it, but I'll still emphasize more on it, looking at how to make use of shapes and then making use of frames as well within Canva. Now, within Canva, you can search for shapes. All you have to do is go to elements, then type in whatever shapes you want to type in, and then you see it. Or you just come down here to shapes, and then if you click on see all, you see all forms of shapes. Then you can pick any one you want. Lines are also considered as shapes. You can make use of any of these lines and then any of these shapes that are here. Or better still, if you are using Canva on your system, you can just go ahead and type each letter R on your keyboard. Letter R will give you a rectangle. R, that is R for red. Or you type each letter C on your keyboard. Letter C will give you a circle. That if you are using a laptop or a computer, a desktop, not on your phone. Or you type letter L will give you a line. So any of those three shortcuts can be made use of. R for rectangle, C for circle, and L for line. So you can bring in any of those shapes.
Are you going to, excuse me, sir, are you
Yeah.
going to hold the shifts?
No, you don't need to hold shift.
What?
Just hit letter R on keyboard, it gives you rectangle. Letter C, it gives you a circle. Then letter L gives you a line. You don't need to hold any keyboard shortcut with it. Just hit it that way. So it
Okay.
should give you any of those ones that way. Okay, now I'll go back and hit letter R, or like I said, if you can't recall the shortcut, just come to your element, then you can click on any of them that you want. Now for a shape, practically, a shape is, I won't totally say it's a container, though it can only contain text, meaning this shape as it is now, I can decide to put text inside. Just double click on it and then start typing whatever text you want to type into it. So a shape can be a container for a text at any point in time. So of course, if a shape is acting as a container for the text, anything you type inside that text, inside that shape, will go along with the anything you type inside the shape will go along with the shape, meaning anywhere you move the shape to, of course, the text will also move along with it, since it's inside this, it's a content inside the shape. Now, beside that, I will clear up this text that I've typed here. Beside that as well, you notice that whenever you click on the shape, there are options at the top here for you to modify the shape. And some of those options is the likes of you changing the shape. If this shape as it is now, let's assume I widen it this way, I want to change it to another particular shape. I don't want it to be a rectangle again, just each shape here. You see that it will give you a list of shapes, then you can change it to any other shape. You can see that way. So you can easily change any shape you've created to any of the already existing shapes here. So you just take that form that way. So I'll return it back to a rectangle this way. Now, beside that, we also have the option for the fill here. Now, every shape has two color attributes. There's what we call fill and strokes. So every shape has color attributes. For those of you that are familiar with Adobe Illustrator or some other software for graphics, even in Microsoft Word, shapes are made up of fill and strokes. Some will call that strokes, they'll call it outline. Like in Microsoft Word, you call it outline. But irrespective of the name that is being given to it, the fact remains that a shape is made up of fill and stroke. Now, this shape as it is now, in Canva, every shape by default only has a fill in it. Meaning by default, it doesn't have that other attribute, which is a stroke or an outline. So you have to put that into it. Now, What do I mean by that? Let's assume with this shape selected now. If I go to the top here, this is the color. If I go ahead and I hit color, I can change the color to whatever I want it. You see that at the top here, we now have, let me say, a kind of special type of color, which is this, which means no color. Meaning if I choose this, I'm saying there shouldn't be a fill color that way. That's simply what I'm saying. That there shouldn't be a particular fill color. That's simply what I'm saying with this. So if I go ahead and click on this. Sorry, please, I'm reverberating. Okay, I'm coming, please. Because I connected multiple devices, so okay. So if I click on this no color, automatically the color for the fill is gone. But if I click away from this now, you notice that that shape, you can't see it again because it doesn't have a fill, it doesn't have an outline. So if I come over here, the shape is still there, but you won't be able to see because it doesn't have a fill and it doesn't have an outline. So if I feel like, I can come to this other option here. You know, when you select the shape properties here, that's the border style. So I can go ahead and put a border style. But before doing that, let me just put a color there temporarily now, so that we'll see the difference between this. Okay, it's having a feedback now. I'm not using this no color again. So if I click on this is the border style. Clicking on this will give me several border styles. Is it just regular line? Is it dashed lines or some other dashed line that I want to use? So if I choose this, you can see that I now have a border around it. If I increase the weight, you see it more obvious. So here now I'm increasing the border weight or the stroke weight that way. So you can increase it to whatever you want it to be like. You can also change the type of stroke you want, if it is dashed line or this or dotted line. So you can always modify every of those. So I'll return this back to this and then reduce that. So we now have two color attributes here now. If I click on this back, this is for fill, this is for the border color or the outline or stroke, whichever term you are using to describe this now. So if you click on this, you can change the color to whatever color you want it to be. So I can change it to any color I want it to be like that way. So I have the fill color and then I have the stroke color. Now you can still go back to this to modify the this type of border you want, the kind of stroke you want. But notwithstanding, we still have one other option, which is corner rounding. More like rounded corners. If you want all of the corners of this rectangle to be kind of rounded, curved. So if I come to this now, corner rounding, and I increase the corner rounding, you notice that the corners of this shape is now becoming kind of curved that way. So that's what corner rounding does. For a good number of you that work with Illustrator, you'll be familiar with this because Illustrator also have rounded corner option, your corner widget that you can always modify. The only difference here is that, you know, this is not a standardized, permitting to use the word standardized graphic tool, meaning it's not really industry standard for graphic. There is limit to what it can do. So here now, one of those things you can't do here is for you to modify just one corner radius without modifying others. Yes, there will be another way of doing that, but here, whenever you move the corner rounding, it modifies all of the corner for the shape that way. I don't know if we get that. Okay, that is on shapes. I would go ahead and now move over to the use of frames. So with shapes now, I've talked about how you create a shape, how you modify the fill, how you modify the stroke as well. I've talked about all of those, and I also talked about how you modify the corner radius for your shape. that way. So let's proceed with this. Let's look at how do you actually work with frames. So I'll go ahead to my element and bring in frames. Okay. So under element, I'll go ahead and bring out frames. I'll go back here. Now, if you go to see all, okay, these are recently used. If you go over to search for frames, okay, and you hit enter. Now, these are actually frames. Under frames, all of these here are not frames. In fact, this is not what the type of frames I'm considering here now. These are photos frame. Yes, but we'll talk about that too in the course of what we are doing tonight. But before then, the actual frame we are using is all of these frames that serves as container for other things you want to work with in Canva here. So if you go to see all, you see several other types of frames that you can easily make use of. So let's assume I'll still start basic with this rectangle. Now, this rectangle frame, it's also a frame just like it's also a rectangle just like this. The only difference between the two is that one is a shape and then the other one is a frame. This is a rectangle shape, this is a rectangle shape, this is a rectangle frame. Now, one of those things that distinguish or differentiate each of them is that for this is a shape, and because it's a shape, it can contain text in it. This is a frame, and because it's a frame, it can't really contain text in it, but it can contain some other graphical elements, most especially photos. So you can put photos into this frame this way now, and then the photo will actually be its content. So just consider it more like one of the major difference between a regular shape and then a frame is that regular shape can contain text, frames cannot. Regular frames cannot contain images, but frames can contain images or photos. Now, for this particular frame, it also has some options just like regular shape, meaning I can choose a color. If I come to color here, I can choose a color that it will be this way. Now, the moment I do this, I'm changing it from what it used to be as a frame to a shape that way, when you add a color to a particular frame. So I'm not going to do that. I'll undo this. Now, it's still back as a frame here now. I can also modify the border style. If I want to change the border style this way, I can increase the border this way. I can go to the corner rounding and then modify the corner rounding. Now, in as much as I've not changed the fill, that's the color inside, it still remains a frame. And because it remains a frame, I can easily put in an image into this particular frame. Now, let's assume I go ahead to bring in an image. Let's say element. Under element, I'll cancel this. And then let's say I'll just bring in an image of a baby boy sitting. Okay, let me just put African baby boy sitting. Okay, under photos, I'll just go to see all. Okay, now let's say I'll pick this. Now this has been brought in. Now for this particular photo, I can put it inside this frame. All I have to do is drag and then drop it on this. Just drag this and come and drop it on this. The moment you drop it somewhere on this particular frame, it fits into it that way. So you can see what we have here now. So we now have the boy as the contents of this particular frame. I don't know if we have any question at this point here now. Any question? Can you all still hear me?
Question.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, you were asking if there's any question.
Yes.
For example,
You
now
get
this
that,
one,
right?
frame
Okay.
and the baby this thing. If you move the baby and this thing, if you didn't group it together, if you move the
No,
baby, would the frame still show?
no, I didn't even group it. You don't need to do any grouping in this now. Automatically, the moment you drop the baby's picture inside the frame, they become a single entity. You notice that if I move the frame, the baby and the frame is just one this way now. If I right click on this frame, right click, and I detach image. Detach image means I'm saying that image inside that frame, oh yeah, stay separate. The frame also stay separate. But the moment you drag the photo into the frame, both of them becomes a single entity this way. That's what frames actually do. That's what frames do. Now, let me now go ahead to instances whereby you want to modify your frames to something else. Now, let's assume I want to capture just the face of this boy, not really the entire body in this frame. How do I do that? Remember that here now, if I scale this, it will make everything bigger. Remember, they are more like one. If I scale this way, the way to even scale it will be entirely different. So if I want it to only capture the face of the boy, what I'll do to edit the placement of the picture within the frame is for you to double click on this picture. If I double click, that's clicking twice as fast as possible. Now it will take me to another mode. In Illustrator, we call it isolation mode. So it's still more like an isolation mode. In this mode now, you have the option of modifying how you want the picture to be placed in this particular frame. I can make the picture alone bigger this way. You notice that it's more like I'm saying this particular boy's picture should only be shown. Just consider the frame more like a window through which you see their particular picture. So if this way now I'm setting it this way, I can hit done. Now you can see what I have here now. So because I've modified the placement of that particular image in this frame. Now similar to this, you can as well, of course, if you want to remove the image from the frame, just right click and then detach image. That way. So once you hit detach image, both the frame and the image will be separated as two different entities. Now let's quickly play around something in this. So that's on working with frame. I'll still explain some other things when it comes to using frames in Canva. But as we work on this sample exercise, we'll get a better understanding of how it actually works. So I'll go ahead and delete these two. Okay. Now, with both deleted, I'll still be using the same artboard. So I want someone to give us a simple design scenario. So what design should we come up with? Just any design scenario. Anyone?
Baby girl sitting in the horse.
Okay. Okay, baby sitting in the house. Okay, let me modify that a little bit. Let's assume an interior house with some pictures of a baby or some babies or whatever. So I'll just go ahead and go to elements. I'll just put something like interior design house wall, something like this. Let's see if we can get something. Okay, these are not bad ones. These are not bad ones. I think I'll just pick any of these. Let me pick this, and then I will increase the size of this. Okay, let's say I want this to be my background. That's this wall, this interior design. I'll just right click on it, set image as background. It automatically sets it as a background this way. So this is not too bad. I'm okay with this. So let's play with some things around this now. I'll bring in frames. I'll go to elements. Then I'll search for frames, and hit enter. Now, before I actually bring in the frame I want to use, I'll bring in all of these photo frame first, because I want to use it to create some kind of framing around the wall. So I'll go to see all for the photo frames. Let's see which one we can pick here. So let's pick this. Okay. Okay, I think Canva is suggesting some other ones for us. Let's pick this as well. Okay, let me just use these two as examples. Okay, I just hope this one will allow us to be able to work with it. Let's use these two as example. Now, let me bring in a photo. I'll go to elements. Let's say African baby photo. Okay, so let's pick this. Let's also pick one more. I'm not really so much interested in the type of this thing we picked, but let's just pick. Let's say I'm picking this two. Now, the little bit what we want to do here is to see how this image will be inside this frame, and to see how this image will also, let's see how we can manipulate it inside this way. Now, of course, you would agree with me that if we even scale this down, let's assume we scale this down this way, and we come and put it here, it won't really fit in well. Let me zoom into it so that we'll see it better. It won't really fit in well, though there's still a way we can modify this, because in this actual sense that if we put this way, let's assume I reduce the size of this and I place it this way, I can send this to the back. Meaning, with this frame now, I can make this frame to come to the front. Just right click, layer, then bring to front. This way, kind of. So you can see that it still works this way now, even without the use of frame. But the implication of doing it this way is that I would have to group both of them together, because this one now is a different frame, this one is a different frame. Now, another way of getting this done is for us to put this one within a frame and then make use of it that way. So it's totally up to us how we want it done. So I'll undo this. So I can select these two and then group it. Group. Now let's assume we have this done already. Now the other one I would work on, that's this one here. If I bring in the other image, sorry, if I bring in this other image, it's not really fitting in as I want. In fact, if I try to work on this the way we worked on the other one, we might have a little bit of issues. That's without using the actual frame. Though there is a way we can work with it without using the actual frame. Meaning this one now, if I try to send this to the back, layer, send to back, this way, this is what we'll be having, which is not really so okay for our liking. So what you can do is you can utilize frame in this. Though, like I said, this particular pic photo frame will give us issues. So I can go to elements and then just search for frame. Let's look for something love frame, because the shape of this particular frame is kind of love or art, kind of. Not photo. I'll go under all. Then you see frames. If I go to see all, you notice that we have some love frames that you can make use of. So you can just pick any one you feel like making use of. So this one, if I reduce this way, I can reduce it to be the exact size of this particular part here, or at least something very close to it. So let's say this way now. That is ensuring that it covers everything this way. So with it this way now, I can now move this baby's picture into this love frame. That's this frame container itself. So I can drag this and come and drop it in here that way. So with this done, you know this container is just one now. Okay, so this container is just one now. I can place it this way and then send to back. Let me send to back. Layer. Someone is dropping a message on the chat box. I think that should be any also. The group is too large to join. No, the group is not too large to join. I'm coming, please. Let me quickly attend to this person trying to join the meeting. Okay, guest user. Send message. Start check. I'm coming. I think this particular person is trying to join, but I believe the person should be in the. Okay, you've joined, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so all right. So let's proceed with this. So with this now, you can see how I've used frame to actually put these two in order. So I can also select these two and then group it. With this group now, I can also size it. Yes. I'm with you. Please go
Sorry, I'm
ahead.
lost. After I put the frame, I'm trying to put the big pictures of the babies inside the frame, but it's not entering.
Inside that, the actual frame, right? This one.
Yes, but it's not entering. Yes.
Yes, just
No,
drag
not
it.
this one. This one that are on the wall there.
The one on the wall, you know, the one on the wall is a photo. So you
Yes,
can't
I'm trying to
put.
put
Yes,
a
what I did
picture.
was. Now, let me show you what I did again. I'll undo
Oh,
this,
okay.
undo, 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 undo. Okay. Now, if you try to put this one inside this, it won't really work. Because this one is a frame, is a photo frame, not really the actual frame. Remember, photo frame are just like photo. You can't really put anything inside of them. But this is the actual frame that you can put something inside. So I searched for frame, love, and they gave me all of these love or art form of frames. So I can make use of any of them. And after picking this, what I'll do is I will put this picture inside this. Remember, this is the one that is a container. This particular frame here.
Yes,
This one, the actual frame is the one that is a container. This one is not a container, it's just a photo.
Yes.
So I'll drag this and drop it inside this way. You can see that I now have the love shape that I want. Then I can move that love shape and then place it appropriately here. Then send it to the back. I still don't want it to be this way. I want it to be there at the back of this picture, this love picture photo. So I'll right click, then layer, then send to back. So you can see here that I've sent this to the back that way. I've sent this to the back that way. So what I have from this is this now. This is the photo frame. This is the other frame. So I can now group both of them together, select both of them, and then group that way so that they will become one item. And then you can do your resizing if you feel like you want to resize it to any size you feel like resizing it to that way. So if you feel like you want to conjure a scene out of this, just go ahead, add some other things. Let's say under element, if I search for interior design flower, I'll go back to all. It's showing me under frames. I'll go back to all. What I actually needed is photos. Now, you should be able to know when to make use of photos, when to make use of graphics, when to make use of frames as per the needs. So under photos now, let me wait. I think it's my network that is making this slow down. Well, why is my network becoming slow like this all of a sudden? Sorry, please. Okay, I think it's loading now. Interior design flower. What I'm seeing is not really what I wanted. Let me go to see all and see. I'm just looking at if we can put a flower maybe by one side there, a flower pot or a flower vase kind of. Now, like I said, it's totally up to you. Feel free, be creative with it, and then just play around it. I guess MTN is doing somehow. I didn't get that, please. Someone's about.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm the one. I want to
Okay.
the first picture I brought in, I want to use it as the background, but
Yes.
I don't know where you clicked to get the background.
This background.
Yes.
Yes, this background I brought in. I used this background was actually obtained from within Canva. Yeah, in fact, everything within Canva. I just searched
I know how
for.
to get the background, but to make it
Okay.
the background on my
Okay,
the page I'm
good.
working.
On the design, for the design, okay.
Yeah.
To make it the background of your page, what you do is, let's assume I bring in this image now, and I want to make this image the background of the design. What you do is just right click and then replace background. Yes, if you don't have a background on it before, you see it make as background or something like that. Or let me right click on this and then detach image from background. So I don't have anything in the background again now. But if I right click on an image I bring in and I want to make it to background, set image as background. This way to set it as background. Yes. Now, if you set as background, okay, you were about to say something.
No, finish. I still have another
Okay.
question.
Okay, sorry, please. Before you go to the second question, let me quickly explain this further. If you set an image as background, there are instances in which the image won't fit in well the way you want it to be. Just double click on that background. Double click. It will take you to the isolation mode kind of. Then you can move it whichever way you want. Let's assume I want this background to still capture. You notice that this is the way the background is. It's only capturing this part. But there are some other part that is not being captured. If I want those other parts to be captured, I'll just double click on the background. Then I can place it appropriately. Let's assume I want to place it this way. Then I can hit done. You can see that the background is now capturing this part, while some other part is kind of eating out of the background because the background is kind of landscape. But what I'm working on is not really landscape that way. So that's on that. Okay, you can go ahead with your second question.
Yes, to select and group the two pictures. I'm finding it difficult to do that.
To select now, to select the two picture and group it. Let me ungroup this. Now there are two ways to do that. But the most easiest way is just to drag your mouse over the two of them. I mostly call it rubber select for my graphic students. Just drag your mouse. Of course, you hold down shift. Just drag your mouse and let the dragging capture both of them this way. Then you see the option for group. You notice that both of them have been selected. Both of them selected this way now. So you can go ahead and either hit Ctrl G on your keyboard or you just see the group option at the top here. Of course, the other way is for you to hold down shift and then select each of the item. But in that other way, it won't work for this because one item is behind the other. If I click on this frame now, there's no way I will hold down shift and click on the other picture behind it. It's not possible. But I did mean that they're actually separate. What I meant by separate is, let's assume they are this. Okay, I've grouped this. I'll ungroup this. Let's assume they are this way. Not necessarily on order. I can click on this, hold down shift, and then click on this, and then group both of them together that way. But since they are on each other, it will not be easy for me to pick one and then pick the same thing. They are at the same spot. So I'll just use the rubber band select, hold down my left mouse button, drag over these two. It has selected both of them that way, then you can group. Grouping makes it easier for you to manipulate your work. Manipulate in the sense that if you want to move this now, you don't need to move the frame first and then move the other picture behind it. You can move both of them at the same time. Not only moving, if you feel like you want to scale, you can go ahead and then scale at the same time as well. That way. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes.
Okay. You're welcome. So if I proceed to this, let's say flower vase material. Let me see if I'll get anyone again here now. Go under photos. Okay, I think there are some cool ones here now. Okay, I think there are some cool ones. I think I'll prefer this one that doesn't have a background. Let's say this. I'll resize it. And then I can place it appropriately. Let's say this way. If I go back to my element, I can bring in any other one I feel like bringing in. So it's totally up to you. Feel free and be creative with it as much as possible. So you can see that we've created a kind of scene out of this now. That's for that. Now, let me just add another page. I'll hit plus here, add page. So let's now assume we are working with regular graphic design. Let me quickly explain this part and then I'll give room for questions and then we can play around this completely and then we'll call it a day. Now, there are instances in which you'll be working on a complicated project that will require that you make use of multiple frames or several frames. Let's say we are trying to design a, let's say, Happy Monday, kind of Happy Monday or Monday motivation design that way. So I can go ahead. I won't bother working with all of the text parts. My emphasis will be on more of the other part that involves the use of frames. So I can go ahead to my elements. Under element, let me just search for blob frames. Blob frame. Blob is just a kind of shapeless whatever. Blob frame. I don't want it under frame. I'll go back to all, or you search for frames at the top here. Frames. But a easier part is go to all. Under all, you see blob frames. These are frames. I'll go to see all. Blobs generally are just some kind of shapeless item, kind of amoeba, something like that. So I can pick any of these and make use of it. So let's say I'll just, for the blob, I'll just pick this frame. Let's say I'll pick this. Let me pick one other one. Let's say I'll pick this. I'll come and place it here. Let's say let me pick one other one again. Let's say this. Okay. Let me pick this one as well. Okay. Let me move this downwards a bit. Okay, now I have 3 frames this way. And I'll go ahead and bring in a background. Under my elements, I'll just search for gradient blurry background. Then under photos, I'll go to see all. Okay, these are not bad options. So let me just pick one of these. Let's say I'll pick this. I'll delete this. I'll set it as background, right click. Set image as background. This way. I can also select that image and then reduce the transparency. I don't want it to be too obvious. So let's say something like this. Okay. Now, I have 3 frames, which of course I'll be putting images into them. So let's say under my elements, I can search for images. So let's say I'm creating this for a brand that sells laptops and phones and then the likes. Laptops, phones, gadgets. Okay, under photos, I'm kind of cool with this. I can pick this. I'll still drag it in, but I want to use this to explain something in particular. Let's say laptop, phones, gadgets, sales. Laptop, phones, electronic gadget sales. Okay, let's say I'll pick this as well. And I'm not really interested in the picture I'm picking. And let's say I'll pick this. Now, there are instances in which you don't want to drop something into something. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's assume, for instance, let me move all of this away first. And let me use this as an example. Now, let's assume this picture here. I don't want to move it inside this. I want to put it behind it. How do I do that? Remember that if you drag and then you just come and put it behind, it will enter inside the frame, which is not what you wanted. I'll detach the image. What I wanted is, I want this image to be behind the frame, not inside the frame. So what you do in such moments is, when you notice that there is no way you can put an image behind the frame, it will always want to put it inside the frame. When dragging the image, hold down Control. You hold down Control on your keyboard, then drag the image. You see that when you hold down Control and you drag an image, the image will never enter into the frame. So Control is just more like you are saying, don't enter into any frame you see as I'm dragging you. So if you don't hold down Control, any frame it sees, as it hovers on the frame, it wants to switch into the frame. But when you hold down Control, this Control held down now, it's not going into this frame again. But if I release my hand from the Control, it's going to want to switch into the frame that way. So I don't know if we get that. So in instance whereby we want to move an image, we don't want it to be in the frame, but behind the frame or close to a frame, just hold down Control along with your as you drag, and then to do the placement accordingly that way. So let's say for this, I'll undo this, and then I would move this back to where I have it. So let's say this way now. Then I can drag each of these to wherever part I want them dragged into that way. So it's totally up to you. So let's say this way. I can also decide that each of them, if I select each of them, I can decide to, let's say I detach this now, detach image. Now I always prefer, if you want to use shape around an image, you decide that beforehand. What I mean by shape is outline around it. It's not all of frames that have the option of shapes. For instance, now as I have this selected, I have the option of borders around it. I have the option of corner rounding. But if I select this frame, you notice that unlike the rectangle frame we saw the other time, this frame is not having the option for borders around it. So you have to note that. So let's say I pick this and I put this inside. So I can actually position it whichever way I want it to be. Now let's also look at this. This particular part, now I'm not really seeing most of the gadgets. I'm only seeing some empty space here. I can double click on it, then position it accordingly. But this one won't allow me to position it further because that's the maximum width of that particular picture. So I can increase the size of the picture and then move it wherever I want it moved to. Let's say something like this. I'm much more okay with this now. So you can play around it to whatever you want this to look like. It's totally up to you. It's totally up to you that way. Now let's say I delete this. So I can go ahead and add in some other text I want to add into this. So if I hit letter T, it brings out my text. I can type in whatever I want. Monday motivation. Now let me quickly chip in something here. Canva is an AI based tool. That is, it has AI integrated into it, and it makes some things way more easier for you to work with. I'll cite an example here now. Let's say Monday motivation. There are instances in which you want to come up with content for your flyer, and you have to go to ChatGPT and start bringing in the content. You can just do a little bit of ChatGPT within Canva here. Yes, you can do that. Now let's assume I hit T to write a text. I can use Magic Write. Let's assume I delete the text inside this text box. Now I can use Magic Write. Then just tell it what you want to write. Well, I think that is gone. Letter T. I'll do letter T again. Magic Write. Now you can tell it what you want to write. You see, it can tell you like continue writing, shorten, rewrite, more fun, and the likes. Maybe if you have a particular text you've typed into something, you can say it should shorten it. So let's say I don't want all of this. I can use custom prompts. If I click on custom prompt, I can tell it whatever I want to do. It's just like you are using ChatGPT. I can tell it that, okay, generate. You won't see that here now. Let me collapse this. Let me collapse this part so that we'll see it whenever we are working on this text. I'll use the Magic Write. When I click on Magic Write here, I'll use custom prompts. Meaning I want to customize my prompt. I want to type in the prompt I want. So generate a short Monday motivation quote for a tech business and tech enthusiasts. Okay, I can hit generate. Now you can see that it has generated that. Embrace the challenge this Monday. Embrace the challenge this Monday brings. Every line of code you write is a step towards innovation. Let's turn ideas into creativity. I can decide that retry, generate another one for me. That way, you can see kickstart your with innovation. Every line of code you write today is a step closer to transforming the future. Let's build something extraordinary. So if I'm satisfied with any of this, I'll just hit replace. Now you can see that it has replaced that. I can change all or everything related to my fonts and then the likes. So let's say I'm choosing a different font here now. DM Sans. And I feel like the font size should reduce. Let's say 32. And I'll reduce the width of this. I'll also change the alignment to make it left aligned. So let's say I'm making this come this way now. So you can see that within Canva, you can make use of codes, AI, that is something like ChatGPT. If I still select this text and I go over to Magic Write and I hit shorten, meaning I'm saying this is kind of too long, shorten it for me, shorten. I can see that it has shortened. You start your week with innovation. Every line of code brings us closer to transforming the future. Let's create something extraordinary. I can replace that way. I can still decide that I is still long. I can go to write magic, shorten, and then it shortens it, and I can replace that way. Kick off your week this with innovation. Each line of code helps us shape the future. Let's do something extraordinary. So you can see that we have some AI tools right within Canva that you can even make use of easily that way. We'll still consider a handful of them like that you can make use of at any point in time. I don't know if you have any questions related to this. Any question? Okay, so if there is none, I'll leave us to play around this and work with the use of frames. You can go ahead and maybe when you have a particular design you want to recreate, just search for frames. So let's say within 5 minutes, I'll just quickly do that here now. So let's say frame circle. I've created a new page here. Circle frames. I'll go to under frames. Then I'll just bring in some of this. So let's say this. Okay, I'll duplicate it holding down Alt. So let's say I'll bring this in. So let's say I'll hold down Alt and then duplicate this way. Okay, so I can put in whatever I want to represent in this now. So let's say for this, I'll just go ahead text. I'll put in something like Monday vibes. Okay. So let's say here I'll quickly do something here now that seems, will I say out of the ordinary? Not really out of the ordinary. Let me delete this and then make this way. Or let me delete this. Let me use something else. I'll come to frames. I won't search for frame circle. I'll search for frame phone this way. Okay, these are some frames. These are not just phones, but they are frames that are phones, kind of. So I would, let me pick any one of these. Let me see if I can get phone side. If there's anything like phone side, the ones I'm getting will involve making use of some other things, but I'll still make use. I wouldn't want to make use of it because it won't really give us what we wanted. But I'll just pick any phone this thing. So let's say this way now. Monday vibes. So let me bring in an image of someone pointing to the side. African man pointing and using phone. Not under frames. I'll go back to see all under photos. Photos. Okay. Okay, let me just use pointing alone. I want something pointing. Okay. Now let me look for an example here. Okay, let me pick this. Okay. For this guy's photo here. So for this guy's photo, I'll remove the background. I want to remove the background around this. I can also decide to leave the background the same way it is here. So I can drag it. Before dragging and dropping, I'll duplicate it first so that I would have one extra copy of it. Now the reason why I'm doing that, you would realize that soonest. I'll drag this and come and drop it inside here. But of course, for this guy's image, I don't want it to be this way. I'll double click on it and then position it this way. So let's say this way now. I can even make it bigger a little bit. So let's say this way. Or let me reduce the height a bit. Okay, let's say this way. Okay. Now, but we are not seeing the other part of the hand because, of course, this is as a container. The phone is serving as a container to this. So what I'll do is I want to leverage on this one. I'll just remove the background around this, BG remover. Okay, now I've removed the background around this, but what I want to do is I don't want the guide to be two images. This is what I want to use, but I want it to look as though we might have seen some design that they'll put some images inside a particular thing. But while the image is inside that thing, some part of that image will still be out. So with this now, I just want the part of the hand to be outside the phone. So it's just the hand is the only thing I need here. So I can crop this side here, any part of an image that is showing line like this, not circle like this, is for cropping. I can crop this way now. Now this is what I have, but I'll still crop it a bit further. Let's say up to something like this. Of course, I can even crop it more, but for accuracy purpose, I can now come and place it just like this way. I must make sure that they are the same size. Now you can see what I have here now. This way. So if I select both and let's say I move it down this way. Now you can see what I have, making it look as if the guy is inside one phone and then the guy just stretch out his hand out of the phone that way. I don't know if you get that. So these are just some design ethics that has to do with you using frames. Then I can go ahead, bring in my text, and then put in whatever text I want to put into this. Let me go back to my text, font size. I'll just change the type of font that I'll be using for this. Let's say I'm using Galaxia Difference. Then I'll use my Magic Write. Custom prompts. Let me close this. Magic Write, custom prompt. So I'll just use something like generate a high spirit Monday vibes quotes. Then I'll hit generate. So embrace this beautiful Monday with open arms and a full. So I'll just go ahead and, or let me see, let the energy of a new week inspire you to chase your dreams, sweat for and make everything. Remember the magic of this. Let me refresh to see if I'll have something shorter. Embrace this beautiful Monday with open arms, the heart full of joy. Let the energy of the fresh week, whatever, is an opportunity to make the magic. So I'll just replace. This is an epistle on its own. So first and foremost, I'll reduce the font size. So let's say to 32, or let's say, yeah, 32 is not a bad one, but it's too long. This is quite too long. So I'll use the magic shortener, Magic Write. Then I'll say shorten. I'll replace. I can still shorten it further self. Magic Write, shorten, and replace. I can still do that one more time. Shorten, I want it to be at least. Okay, replace. So for this, I'll just remove this. Let the week's energy inspire you to chase dreams, spread positivity and shine. Each day offers a new chance to create magic. I would align this appropriately, and I can go ahead and play around this further. Okay, so I can expand this a bit, then use my rectangle R, and then just put in whatever I want for this. So let's say I'll put this in this way, expand it. And then for this rectangle I've created, I'll go to corner widget, then make use of rounded corner a little bit this way. And then for the text, I'll move it inward a bit. Let's say this way. Okay, I'm okay with this. I'll group both of them together, both the text and then the shape. I'll just group. And I want them to be behind this hand. I don't want them to be showing above this hand. So I'll just select and then right click and send to back this way. Okay. So with it sent to back, this is more of what I have here now. And I can go ahead.
How did you let enter the triangle?
The text, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just created the text separately. There are two ways you can do that. It's either you bring in a rectangle and then you type in your text inside, or since I generated the text using a magic write, what I just simply did is let me ungroup this. I type the text separate. Oh, sorry, please. I type the text separate, put in a rectangle, customize the rectangle to what I want it to be, and then just arrange it that way. I also try as much as possible. Initially, the rectangle, both of these were showing at the top of this finger, but I sent them to the back that way, and I grouped both of them together. So it's just like if you type a text now, this is a text, and then you brought in a rectangle R, and you adjust the rectangle to what you want it to be like. Let's assume this way. Just position the rectangle very well to be behind the text. That's all that was done here that way. That's all that was done that way here. Yeah. So let me clear this out. So I can go ahead and then just add some other things to this. So let's assume I'll search for under all dotted background faded. Okay, let's say I'll just pick this. Then I'll scale this up. Then scale this way. I'll right click and then send to back, layer, send to back. This way, I'll change the color as well. Let's say I'll use the same color. And then I'll modify the transparency a little bit. Let's say this way now. Then I can go ahead, add in some few other elements into this. So let's say I'll go ahead and add text. The text size font now I want is not this. I'll choose the other font I used earlier. So let's say I'll just put in stay positive. Stay positive.
The dotted background shaded, is it from graphics?
Yes, on graphics, yes. I picked it from graphics. So let's say stay positive, be optimistic, embrace success, and every other thing I want to add. So all of those are just by the way. So I can go ahead for all of these, modify the font size. So let's say 24, and I'll change the alignment as well. So let's say all of this now, I'll come and place it here. I can even add some other things to it, but since time will not permit me to do that, I can just search for ticks, tick marks, tick mark. Under graphics, I'll just see all, and then I can pick. If I pick this, I want to pick the one that would allow me to change the color. Okay, fine. This one now allows me to change the color. I'll go to the color and then pick whatever color I want. This way, I can also reduce the size to this. So let's say for all of these, I would increase this gap between each of those texts. You notice this text doesn't have much gap. That's line spacing. I'm kind of increasing the space between each of the texts. That's line spacing here. So I'm kind of okay with this. And reduce that. And let's say for this, let me modify this a little bit. Instead of yellow, let me use this black. I think that's still way more visible. I'll reduce the size here. I prefer zooming in when doing something very small and intricate this way. So let's say this. I can just do this. Hold down Alt and then duplicate this downward. Still hold down Alt and then duplicate this downward this way. At least not the best, but at least a good one. So you can go ahead with this and then play around it until you are satisfied with what you want. I don't know if there is any question as regards this.
So I have question.
Okay.
How you join the guy hand? What do we need to do there? I was trying to do it, but it's not, I'm not getting it.
Okay. Now, I duplicated the guy first.
Yes.
I had 2 copies of the guy. The other copy, I removed the background. Right? Now,
But
after
is
removing is it what?
will it duplicate the frame too?
No, you are not duplicating the frame. The frame is just one.
Okay.
You put one of the image inside the frame.
Yes.
When you put one of the image inside the frame, then the second image that is not inside the frame, that's the one you will crop. This one is
How do
this
we
way
crop
now.
it?
Now, for you to crop it, it's this hand that I want it to remain. I don't want to see it for the one outside. It's just this hand. Then you just crop from the side here. This line by the side here, just crop it. Let's say to somewhere around here where you want it to start showing. Now, one thing you have to take note of here is that the size of this hand should also be the size of the body here. Because imagine if this hand is small this way now, and I want to place it like this. Let me hold down Control so that it won't enter into it. And I want to place it like this. You know definitely that it won't work.
Yes.
If at all it is this way, you'd have to scale it up to ensure that it's actually the same size with the other one. So let's say some, and not even too bigger, not even bigger than it. So let's say something like this now. Let's check this. This fits in as well. So we can use it this way now. I think it's a bit
So you
bigger.
remove the background of the hand, right? How do we?
Yes, I removed the background.
How do
Yes,
you
just
remove the
select. You see
background?
BG remover. Just select an image. If you select an image and you hit BG remover, it will remove the background. Let's say this is the image now. And I click on BG remover. Just give it some time. You can see that it has removed the background that way. And then you can crop it out. So I don't know if there's any question before we call it a day for tonight.
Yes, I have a question, please.
Okay.
The magic rights.
Yes.
Is it when you insert the
text?
what is it called? The text that it will
Yes.
appear.
Yes, it will appear when you
Thank
bring in
you.
any text or when you select a text. If I bring in a text now, this is a text. The moment you have any text selected, you see magic right at the top here. So magic right only works with text elements.
Mr. Banji, explain again. I'm not getting it.
Okay, the magic right only works with text elements. If you select any text, you see magic right. If you select anything text, you see this is not a text now, this hand I've selected. So you won't see magic right. Any text you have selected, you see magic right. If what you want to use magic right for is none of your existing text, you want to come up with some other text that you want to use the magic right for, just bring in a text, either by using letter T. Let's say I put in a text here now. For this particular text, while it's still selected at the top, you see magic right. I always encourage when you use the magic right, close these ones, all of these ones showing here. because the magic write prompt where you type in your prompt is
Okay.
kind of lengthy. Yes. So I'll close this. So with this selected, you see magic write. If you click on magic write at the top here, then you can use a custom prompt. So if I use custom prompt, it will do that. So there are lots of options you can make use of. Sprinkle fairy dust. You can decide that it should sprinkle fairy dots, meaning just more like a randomized whatever that way. So that's what the magic write does.
Mom is bringing it though. Wait, I can't see it.
So I guess we would have to stop here. I'll drop the link to the video, to the recording for this, so that we'll be able to access it at our own leisure as well.
Okay. Mr. Banji, one question,
Yeah.
please.
All
I
right.
was
Go
trying
ahead.
to fix the hand to be like a normal thing, but it's not going.
What's the issue like?
It's not setting well. Like,
You see, hope the hand is not too big, and hope it's
no,
not
it's
too
not too
small.
big.
Now, just try and place it at where you know that it will match up with the already existing body. That way.
After that, am I going to group the two? I'll group it
Yes, you
together.
can group it. You can group it. Though I didn't group mine, but I would encourage you group it. Meaning, this frame with this body, that's this one here now. I'll group it with the other hand outside there. So while I've selected this, hold down Shift, select this, then group it together. Group. So I don't know if we get all of this. So it's just all about play around it, whatever you want, and then you add it to it. Let's say do flight. So just play around it to give you whatever you want it to be like. That way, it's totally up to you. It's totally up to you. So we would stop here and then proceed from here by God's grace to hopefully that should be on Tuesday, since there is a public holiday on Tuesday. Last 6 class that we are supposed to have, I wish that we'll still be able to do it maybe on Tuesday. So I'll try and communicate with us Tuesday by the same evening time, 8 o'clock. We'll see if you can come online and then do some other things, so that we'll just have like one or two other classes for this, and then we'll start moving into how you create videos on Canva, and then some other kind of specialized form of design on Canva that way. So the center be open on Tuesday? No, the center will not be opened on Tuesday. That's why I'm saying we can utilize that time so that by evening, by 8 o'clock, we can come online for this. But I'll communicate it with us if it will be that way.
Okay. Mr. Banji, before we go, when are we collecting our own certificate?
Your certificate, I think if anything was chatting me up today, I would, when I get to the center tomorrow, I'll ask Sophia and the likes. I know they brought in some certificates from India recently, but I'm not too sure if yours were part of it. Let me stop the recording here. So that will be all for today. We'll proceed from here by God's grace, hopefully on Tuesday.